Alright, so continuing on now with question 2 in section 12.5, we're going to look at parts E through H. And so with E, we have 1/2 plus 3x is equal to 1 over x. And so first thing again we'll do is list any restricted values. So any value of our variable that will make a denominator 0. And that is going to, we have to watch out for this one right here. X cannot equal 0. The next thing we'll do is list the LCD, and here our denominators are 2 and x, so our LCD would be 2x. And so now I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides of this equation by 2x. Alright, so then let's go ahead and distribute the 2x on the left side. And so that's going to give us, well, 2x times 1/2, so that would just be x, plus 2x times 3x would be 6x squared. And then over on the right, I have these x terms here and here to drop out. And so I'm going to be left with just 2. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and subtract 2 and rewrite the left side in descending order. And I'm going to be looking at 6x squared plus x minus 2, and that's going to equal 0. So we have a quadratic equation, and if we're lucky, this thing on the left will factor. So let's go ahead and factor this. So let's see, to build the 6x squared, my options are 3x and 2x or 6x and x. Okay, so let's say I'll try a 3x and a 2x just to try it. And then for the 2, well, I can try just 1 and 2 or 2 and 1. Okay, if I try, say, 2 and 1, can I get a middle term of x to come out of that? This middle term right here, the inside term would be 4x. And then this right here would be 3x. So if I make the 3x negative, then and the 4x positive, then I'm going to come out to be this middle term of just x. So yeah, that can work. So I want a minus here, so 3x times negative 1 will give me that negative 3x. And then I want a positive here, so I get a positive 4x. Okay, that's great. So I'll just copy this factorization down here so it's less cluttered. 3x plus 2 times 2x minus 1 is 0. So now just set each factor equal to 0 to solve. So here, if I subtract 2 and divide by 3, I'd get minus 2/3. And if I set this factor to 0, if you add 1 and divide by 2, you're going to get 1/2. Okay, so here then will be our solutions. X can equal either minus 2/3 and 1/2. And don't forget to check, are either of those values restricted up here? And the answer in this case is no. Okay, and those problems from parts C and D in the last video, remember we actually had to throw out the solution we wound up generating because it was one of our restricted values. That's not the case here, so we're all good. All right, and then for F, we have 1 over W plus 3 equals 5 over W times W plus 1. And so again, we'll start by looking at restricted values. So what can W not equal? Well, it can equal 0 from this first denominator here on the left side, and it also, notice there's a W there on the right side in the denominator, so that's also going to prohibit W equals 0. But then also we have to avoid negative 1 from this second factor there, W plus 1. All right, how about the LCD? Well, my factors there are W and W plus 1, and everything's just to the first power, so that in fact is the LCD. So I'll go ahead and multiply both sides of our equation by this w times w plus 1. And now I'm going to go ahead on the left and distribute. So there we're going to get what? Well, w times w plus 1 times 1 over w. We're going to lose the w, and I'm going to be left with a w plus 1. And then we're going to add to that w times w plus 1 times 3, and that would just be 3w times w plus 1. Now on the right hand side, notice the w times w plus 1 shows up there and there, so these are actually nicely going to all divide out, and I'm left with just a 5 on the right hand side. Okay, so now just keep plugging away. Let's go ahead and open parentheses on the left side by distributing the 3w. And so we're going to go to w plus 1 plus 3w squared plus 3w. That's going to equal 5. Combine like terms on the left, so I'll get 3w squared plus 4w plus 1 is equal to 5. Let's go ahead and subtract that 5 from both sides. We have another quadratic equation. So we have now 3w squared plus 4w minus 4, and that's equal to 0. So like we saw in part E, let's go ahead and try to factor this left-hand side. Okay, so for 3w squared, fortunately here, there's only the options 3w and w. And then for the 4, well, we could try 1 and 4, 4 and 1, or 2 and 2. I'll go ahead and try 2 and 2 just to give it a try. And what do we get there? This would be a 2w, and this would be a 6w. And I can build a positive 4w out of these by making the 6w positive and the 2w a negative. Okay, cool. So then that means what? I want the 2w here, I want this 2 to be a negative, and then for the 6w we need that to be a positive. Alright, so I'll go ahead and just copy that factorization down over here so it's less cluttered. So we have 3w minus 2 times w plus 2, and that's all equal to 0. So now setting each factor equal to 0 will give us our solution. So adding 2 and dividing by 3 would give us 2/3, and then here I'm going to get a negative 2 for w. And so there are the candidate solutions, and notice again these two numbers are not restricted, and so we keep them both. There's two solutions there to our equation. Okay, plugging along, let's go ahead now and look at parts G and H. So for G we have x minus 1 all over x minus 3, and that's equal to 2 over x minus 3. So restricted value here would be 3. If I set x equal to 3, I'm going to get division by 0. And then for the LCD, well, that's just going to be the x minus 3. And that's because, well, that's the only denominator that shows up. Okay, so I'm going to multiply both sides by x minus 3. And let's see what we get. On the left, the x minus 3 would just drop out. It shows up here and here. So this divided by itself is just 1. So we're just going to get the x minus 1 on the left, which is nice. And fortunately on the right, same thing happens. X minus 3 here and here will divide out, and we're left with just 2. And then I go ahead and add 1 to both sides. And what do I get for x? Well, I get that x is equal to 3. But here, like we've seen now a few times, since that's a restricted value, I don't keep it. So this, in fact, does not have a solution. Great. Okay. And then lastly, part H, we have p plus 4p over p minus 6, and that's equal to 24 all over p minus 6. So p cannot equal 6 here. And then our LCD would be the p minus 6. So go ahead and multiply both sides of our equation by p minus 6. And I'm going to need to distribute the p minus 6 on the left side. So distribute here and here. And so we will get p minus 6 times p for that first distribution. And then plus p minus 6 times 4p over p minus 6. And there, the p minus 6 factor will cancel out, and I'll be left with just the 4p. That's nice. Over on the right, this p minus 6 here and here drop out, and I'm left with 24 on the right. Great. So now let's go ahead and open parentheses here by distributing this p. And that's going to give us p squared minus 6p plus 4p is equal to 24. I can go ahead and combine like terms on the left, and that's going to give us a p squared minus 2p, and then I have my 24 over on the right still. Let's go ahead and subtract that 24 from both sides. And then that's going to give us p squared minus 2p minus 24. And that's all got to equal 0. All right, and then let's go ahead and try to factor this. So for the p squared, well, just one option there, p and p to build the p squared. For 24, well, I have a few different options, and keep in mind I'm trying to build a middle term of -2. So I'm thinking, well, it could be 1 and 24, there could be 2 and 12, there could be 4 and 6, there could be 3 and 8. Okay. So out of these pairs, to build a -2 for the middle term, I could do that with this pair if I make the 6 a negative and the 4 a positive. And so in other words, my factorization there would be p plus 4 and p minus 6. So let's go ahead now and set each factor to 0. And so we'll get our solutions -4 and 6. However, be careful here. While -4 was not restricted, 6 was, right? So here, since we had to restrict 6, we're going to toss that out. So in other words, now we wouldn't say no solution. We do have a solution of -4. That works. But we are tossing out the 6 because, again, if I plug 6 into this original equation, it would give me a division by 0. So that would be a problem. All right. Well, that's going to do it for question 2. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.